go. Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be back on this YouTube grind. It's Wednesday. We're going to preview UFC 76, Sean Strickland against, what's this fucking guy's name? Magomed. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his first name, man. That name is crazy. I can't do it. But let's get right into it. I'm kind of happy to start this kind of rebrand of the channel. I want to definitely focus a little bit more on UFC. I feel like I'm a little bit more of a natural speaking about it. Sometimes when I'm speaking about baseball, like god damn, it's just numbers here, numbers there, number. Everything's numbers. It's a numbers game, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm not. I'm not. It's not as exciting as UFC, where I'm going to talk about how someone's going to get knocked the fuck out. You know what I mean? So I'm glad I'm doing this little bit of a rebrand. I still have not been able to go full steam ahead, but here we are, man. Another week of getting into it. So we have an interesting card. I remember this last week's card I was super excited about, and I did really well on it. I hit on a couple plus 600, plus 850. A fun card, man. But when I first looked at this card, there was a couple names that I'm like, I had to really think about. But I'm glad to see that Guram Kurlatsi and Demir Ismagulov are fighting on this card. I like both of those fighters a lot. And if you're gonna be doing some tape studying, man, make sure you watch that fight because you can kill two birds with one stone. Since both fighters are on that card, and it's just a high level fight, man. High level fight, and I'm really excited to see both of them go at it. Demir currently is a minus 125 favorite, and Guram is minus 620, man. God damn, minus 620. Sheesh. But let's get right into it. I'm going to pull up the card. So here we have, this is the full card. And we're starting off with Alexander Romanov. We're going to start off with Alexander Romanov against Blag Blagoy Ivanov. So Romanov is in a very interesting situation. He bursted onto the scene, bursted onto the scene, and was killing every tomato can that they put in front of him. And then something happened in this Marcin Tybura fight where I believe that's the fight where he came in really overweight, and he lost by decision, man. But prior to that, he beat Chase Sherman by submission round one, Jared Vandera TKO round two, Juan Espino by decision, Marcos Ruggiero de Lima by submission round one. Like he was on fire, man. He debuted with a submission in the second round, and the past two fights he hasn't seen by him like himself. And I'm kind of glad that the UFC. Um, I like that they put him as the prelim opener on a fight night. That's kind of saying something. You're really going to see what type of fighter Romanov is. Um, they're hoping he can get back to his highlight ways. Round one submission, round one TKO. But let's see how he does, man. You definitely also want to keep an eye out on how he looks on Friday because two fights ago, man, god damn, he just looked so out of shape. The next fight we have Ivana Petrovic against Luana Carolina. And I had to do a little bit of research on Ivana Petrovic. She's a minus 245 favorite. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But she's going to be the first Croatian female fighter in the UFC. I've been reading a little bit about her fight history. She had the belt at, I forget the name of the organization she was at. Aries FC, and her belt once, and now she's in the UFC. So Luana Carolina, she had that brutal loss by TKO against Molly McCann, and just lost to Joanna Woods. So she's in a must-win situation. But this is definitely a fight where I'm going to have to do some tape studying. And Luana Carolina, she is a longer fighter, so I'm going to definitely keep an eye out on how they look, um, how the size difference is here. But definitely going to be interested in tape studying Ivana Petrovic. Wow, she's 5'8". Luana Carolina is 5'7". I feel like that's interesting to know. Baby girl, good morning. How are you doing? Next fight, we have Elvis Brenner against Guram Kudalayev. And like I said, man, he caught a Kudalati. So two things I really like about Guram is that he's from Georgia. Those fighters and those people have a lot of pride in their country. Something I really like. He calls himself the Georgian Viking, and they're starting to kind of put a name. They got a couple fighters, man. Mirab, who's on the come up, and Giga Chikadze. So Georgia's got some solid fighters. But Guram definitely watched his last fight against Demir. He's my Gulab. I feel like that loss isn't as big as it should have been. I remember that fight, that card that they were on. They looked levels above everyone else. So I don't want to weigh too much into that. I don't want to weigh that loss that heavily. And plus, he's a minus 620 favorite. So like, what from a sports betting perspective, like what can you really do with that? Elvis Brenner, he's 14-3 professional record. He has a decision win against Abira Tukagov. Damn, these names are crazy. But everyone knows who that is. So that is impressive. But a minus 620 favorite, man, it's like a dog or pass situation there. Definitely going to be looking into that fight. Next fight, Carol Rosa against Yana Santos. So this fight, oh, did my shit freeze? So Yana Santos, I believe she has back to back. Yep. So Yana Santos has back to back losses. One against Holly Holm, which is respectable, back in March 25th, 2023. And she lost by TKO to Irene Aldana in 2021. So she didn't fight in all of 2022. Carol Rosa, she is a Brazilian fighter, and I believe, she trains with Jessica Andrade. So Carol Rosa is 2-2 last four fights, but she does have that UFC experience that you're looking for. Where are the lines at? Carol Rosa is a minus 180 favorite. Jan Santos plus 140. I'm This is not a fight that I'm too crazy about. Last week we had definitely a better women's MMA matchup. But this fight, sure, I'll probably that's a good fight to grab a new fresh new beer for. Next fight we have, oh my God, Joe Anderson Brito against Weston Wilson minus 1600. Man, like what the hell is this boxing? What is going on with that? Let me share my screen. Joe Anderson Brito minus 1600. Sheesh, man. Weston Wilson. So I did look into this, and I feel like this is a situation where they're kind of feeding Weston Wilson to the wolves, man. He is taking this fight. He's a fill-in fighter, and this is also going to be his UFC debut. So one thing about Weston Wilson is that you really have to like he's 16-7 professional record, and he's never uh, he has not fought in the UFC. So the level of competition here is definitely something you want to be aware of. Like he does have three back-to-back wins by submission, but who is he fighting? Joe Anderson Brito, 14-3 professional record. He's got back-to-back first round finishes in the UFC. Andre Fili, I like Andre Fili. So he beat Andre Fili by TKO in the first round. Lucas Alexander, he won by submission round one. So it's good to see that he's a threat both on the feet and on the ground. But I'm definitely going to have to look back into this Bill Algeo fight. What happened here? The positive thing is that this fight did go 3 rounds, and the fight prior to that also went 3 rounds. So the gas tank can't be that bad, you know? Like he did go 3 rounds, and then he did finish two people in round one. So I don't based off of that information, it might not be a Trevor Peak situation, but definitely gonna rewatch that Bill Algeo fight. Kevin Lee is back in the UFC. Kevin Lee is back. He's a plus 172 underdog against Rinat Fakhretdinov, who's sitting at minus 225. Let me just pull up Kevin Lee. So Kevin Lee, 19-7. He did have a lot of hype a couple years ago. His last fight in the UFC was against Daniel Rodriguez back in 2021. And then he fought Diego Sanchez in Khabib's promotion, Eagle FC. 3 rounds, decision win. And now he's back. So um, the one thing that I did read up on Kevin Lee is that he converted to Islam, and or fuck, did I say that right? I'm having, I haven't had my coffee yet. Uh, but it's curious. I'm curious to see the type of energy he's like bringing forward, especially being back. This like I feel like you definitely change as a fighter. I'm just trying to put myself in his situation. He's back. Does he want to be back? Does he have a choice, or is he looking at this as being reborn and going after it again? You know, you just sometimes you don't know some of these fighter situations. Like sometimes this is all you have. This is your best option to put some food on the table. So that might be the primary thought here, outside of a bunch of other things. So definitely going to keep an eye. As weird as this sounds, I'm gonna just kind of keep an eye out on his vibe this week, his energy, how he's presenting himself. Um, and he's definitely the UFC definitely didn't give him a tomato can. Renat Fog. He's a Russian guy nicknamed the Gladiator. He's 20-1 professional record, and 55% of those wins were by TKO. 11 of 20, and then five of those 20 were by submission. Only so 80% of his wins were by finish, professional. So in the UFC, we kind of been seeing this a lot. So in the UFC, he did go all three rounds against Andres Nicolaitis. He went all three rounds against Brian Battle. Brian Battle. Um, Now I believe that that was a this win looks a lot more respectable because Brian Battle just showed out his last fight, so that win does have a little bit more weight to it. Definitely a situation here where you want to monitor the the guys that he's been facing, man. And same thing with Kevin Lee. You can see on his record that he's has losses to a couple respectable fighters: Daniel Rodriguez, Charles Oliveira, Kevin Lee brings forward. What do we got next? So this next fight, Bruno Ferreira against Nursultan Razibiov. So I feel like this is going to be a fight where everyone's going to be on the under 2.5, under 1.5. Bruno Ferreira is 10-0 professional record in the UFC. He beat in round one Gregory Rodriguez. I believe that's RoboCop. Yep, RoboCop. He beat him in round one, man. And Gregory Rodriguez, I believe, prior to that loss, he did go on a nice little run. He was doing really well. He even went all three rounds with Armin Petrosian. But back to this fight, man. Oh fuck. So that is definitely impressive, especially with him. Like he hasn't been past the second round in 10 fights. So he's been finishing everyone, man. Nursultan Razibov, he's 34-8 professional record. He has one loss by knockout, one loss by submission. But he's also been on a nice little run as well. Nothing in the UFC yet, but he's submitting, finishing people. So that is going to get you a ticket to the UFC. So very curious to learn more about both of these fighters. Bruno's still very young, so I'm excited to rewatch that Gregory Rodriguez fight. It only lasted one round, so it's a quick little tape study. Ismail Bonfif against Bennett and Dinas. So let's pull up the odds. So back to that previous fight, Bruno Ferrara is a minus 186 favorite. For this next fight, Ismail Bonfif is minus 310. Bennett St. Denis is plus 230. So I feel like this is just another fight, man, where you have um, that Terrence McKinney round two TKO win is definitely impressive. Um, and his Dana White Contender Series fight won by decision. The God of War 10-1 professional record. Back to back finishes, man. Nicolas Stolze round two submission. Gabriel Miranda round two TKO, man. So this is the tape study type of fight right here. What do we got next? Ariana Lipsky against Melissa Gatto. Ariana Lipski, man, Brazilian queen of violence, 15-8, um, professional record in the UFC. I mean, that's crazy. That this is kind of rare for like women's MMA, man. Um, she lost by TKO to Antonia Shevchenko, Montana De La Rosa, Priscilla Cochera. So does Melissa Gatto have that TKO power in her? Definitely something that I want to look into. She did have a TKO win against Sujara Eubanks. She just lost to Tracy Cortez by decision. Um, Damn, she's got back to back wins by. She had back to back wins by TKO prior to that. Melissa Melissa Gatto's a minus 210 favorite. I usually don't like to see that type of stuff when uh, when it comes to women's MMA. So I'm gonna keep an eye out on that TKO prop, I guess, but nothing I'm too crazy about. Max Griffin plus 215 against Michael Morales. Let me pull that up. Max Griffin, man, 19-9 professional record. He just been beat Tim Means by decision. He lost to Neil Magny. Prior to that, Carlos Condit by decision. He did beat Kenan Sanger or Mies Brahimaj by TKO. Michael Morales, 14-0 Ecuadorian fighter. Only 23 years young, man. Love to see that 6'3". Max Griffin is 5'11". Damn, Michael Morales. He's got back-to-back wins by TKO, went all 3 rounds in Dana White's Contender Series. Oh, nice to see that he fought in Mexico. Um, Definitely gonna need to update myself on this Michael Morales cat. Michael Morales minus 290, man. Shit, I don't like that. Even though I guess he deserves it, but it's still very early on in his career, so I'm not too crazy about that minus 290. Of course, I'm not, man. I'm a fucking sports better. I don't like seeing stuff at minus 290. This right here, this next fight, Demir Ismagulov. This is definitely my cup of tea. Minus 125 favorite. Demir, man, he looked great against Guram. He went all 3, lost by decision to Arman. Respectable. He's beat Rafael Alves, Thiago Moses, Joel Alvarez, who is starting to put his name on the map. Grant Dawson, 19-1-1. He's got back-to-back submission wins. Um, and then prior to that, he had a TKO win back in 2021. So Grant Dawson is on a run. I understand where the line's at. I'm going to definitely have to look into Demir, a little bit more on Demir because I don't really remember him outside of this Guram fight. This Thiago Moses and Joel Alvarez fight is going to be interesting. I want to see how he does against guys who like to be on the ground. Joel Alvarez, man, 16 of 19 wins by submission, so that'll be a good one. Definitely a good one to rewatch. And then for the main event, we have Sean Strickland minus 162 favorite against Abus Magomedov. So my first initial thoughts on this fight is why is the UFC giving Magomedov a headliner? Especially, I know he just had an insane finish round 1, but like that's his only fight in the UFC. So I thought that's kind of interesting, man. Like what else am I missing here? So that definitely had me. thinking, what am I missing here? But Sean Strickland is a minus 162 favorite. Sean Strickland, big fan of him. I really like his character. I feel like the world needs more people like Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is hilarious. You can't really take him. You can't take the guy serious. If you do, you're a dickhead. Sean Strickland, he's a funny guy. Big fan of him. He just beat Nusardini Imamov in a 5 round decision win. So that is very, very impressive, especially because Imamov was is on the come up. He just had that tough no contest against Chris Curtis. But prior to that, Sean Strickland, man, like we just saw Jared Cannonier explode. We saw the type of fighter Jared Cannonier could be, and he went all 5 with him, but he did lose Alex Pereira. That was a brutal TKO loss, and I believe that was his second one of his career. His other one came back in 2018. But even after the TKO loss, he did go on a nice run in the UFC, and I'm glad he got that win against Imamov. So, what am I missing here, man? Why is this guy the headliner? Definitely needs something to look into. Definitely something to look into. The tape study is going to be crucial this in this uh, in this fight event. So. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Like I said, I still haven't gone full steam ahead, but I'm here, man. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking sports. Enjoy talking UFC. So let's touch base back on Friday. I'll be back on Friday, 8 a.m. I'll definitely have more stuff to talk about. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Peace.